Hello and welcome to News Centre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. The top story we are tracking this evening. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has introduced a bill in the Lok Sabha for amendments to the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. The amendments are aimed at reducing delays under the IBC and will introduce creditor-initiated insolvency resolution process. The government has also proposed an out-of-court initiation mechanism for genuine business failures. The changes are aimed at facilitating faster and more cost-effective insolvency resolution. The government also aims to ease burden on judicial systems, encourage ease of doing business and improve access to credit. Group insolvency framework will also look at efficiently resolving insolvencies that involve complex corporate structures. The new law proposes cross-border insolvency framework to protect interests of domestic and foreign stakeholders. The bill has been referred to a select committee of Parliament. To take this discussion forward, I'm now joined by former Finance Secretary S.C. Garg and Kumar Saurabh Singh, partner at Khaitan and Company. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Garg, one of the major problems with the IBC, the original intent was clear and was good, but what we were seeing is that the average time taken for admission was almost 434 days. And we're not talking about resolution, we're talking about admission. Do you think this bill will do a great service by fixing a time period for an application to be admitted or not?
See, fixing timetable is the easiest thing to do, but adhering to that is the real test. The IBC has the time sort of table for every process, including the total resolution and all. So how would this one, once it becomes the act, so far it's going to the select committee of the parliament, they will take time, and what finally becomes the law, we don't know. But assuming that this becomes the law as it has been introduced in the Lok Sabha, there are good proposals sort of to start counting from the day, specifying timelines for the initial admissions and all. Hopefully that is a step forward. But don't sort of discount the ingenuity of Indian legal system, the lawyers and the people involved to sort of test this out as the time comes.
Right. That's an important point, sir. Saurabh, if I can come to you, what do you think will be the proof for global investors and even domestic investors to trust India's insolvency process even better? All right, we will be joined by Kumar Saurabh Singh in some time. Mr. Garg, if I can put that question to you, going forward, if we want investors to trust India's insolvency and resolution process, what do we need to do in terms of implementation?
The bill has many provisions to sort of address the interest or the concerns of the investors, whether foreign investors or domestic investors, including trying to put together a regime for the cross-border resolution, insolvency resolution. This has been in the works for many years. I remember when I was in the system in 2017-18, we were talking about introducing cross-border insolvency resolution. That has come now, and that has come, by the way, only as a kind of enabling provision. The bill talks about that the government will frame the rules as it when you go through it. So becoming the law and then framing the law is quite far in the future. Likewise, the group insolvency resolution is also a very complicated kind of thing. Remember the ILFS issue or the GenSol, and where multiple companies, subsidiaries exist, and if one has defaulted, the other one has not defaulted. How do you resolve in such kind of group bankruptcy and insolvency cases? Again, there, the bill proposes enabling provision. The government will bring the rules in times to come. So we'll have to watch out what comes into those rules. A good move possibly is, yeah.
All right, you're saying a good move, a good intent, a good message that we're sending to domestic and foreign investors. Let me also go across to Kumar Saurabh Singh. Saurabh, if I were to ask you, do you think this bill will address concerns in the banking sector among investors about what has happened with the Bhushan Steel resolution process? Now, the Supreme Court had quashed JSW Steel's plan for resolution in the case of Bhushan Power and Steel. The banks were asked to return 19,300 crores. There was 34,000 crore of bank exposure, which is at risk. This is at a review stage right now. But do you think this bill and the government's message here will address those concerns?
I think the message is very clear. I think some of the problems of last 3-4 years, if you see the last amendment of law came in 2021, and some of the problems which had crept in the system through various interpretations of courts have sought to be addressed through this amendment. Now, in terms of very specific context of Bhushan Steel, yes, I think the intent seems to be to address, but the messaging is more at the NCLT level, because NCLT is required if in case of non-compliance of the provisions of the plan with the law, to send the plan back to COC and give it a chance to come back. Now, while NCLTs are going to work in that framework, I mean, for the apex court of the country, they have a lot wider powers and they have exercised discretion in many situations. So, I mean, that, as Mr. Garg was also mentioning, the interpretation of law is something that will be left to the courts. But I think the intent from government side is quite clear. Some of the issues that the process has faced in the last few years, there is an attempt to address it. Does it completely allay all apprehensions? That only time will tell, and it will depend a lot on how the law is implemented through courts. So it will have to be seen over a period of time. But I think the direction of changes seems to be quite welcome and in the right direction.
All right, let me go back to Mr. Garg. Mr. Garg, when it comes to out-of-court settlement, in the case of genuine business failures, there is a provision for this to encourage out-of-court settlements. This will be an important factor in reducing litigation pendency of cases under the IBC process. Do you think if this bill is passed in this form and implemented, a lot of people in the corporate sector will try and resort to this process?
See, this is a very interesting proposal. So what essentially is that the lenders are being put in charge of the insolvency process instead of the court as part of the corporate resolution process. Now, putting the lenders in charge is efficient, definitely. The lenders can take more and faster decision, and they can do a commercial kind of deal in case there are genuine business failures. But the very same proposal can also be misused completely. What we saw in several cases resolved here, where the haircut was 90% or 95%, you don't know whether that was actual business failure or there was sort of some game going on between the lenders and the corporate debtor. So will in future this provision be sort of used to compel bankers to grant the accommodation to whoever need to be favored, or used for the actual genuine business failure kind of cases, is yet to be seen. So it's a double-edged sword in my judgment.
Right. So you're saying it's a double-edged sword. Let me go back to Kumar Saurabh Singh right now. Kumar Saurabh, when it comes to group insolvency provisions and provisions around cross-border settlements, How important are these amendments that are being suggested by the government?
So again, I mean, if you see the proposal, it is creating enabling framework for government to create rules around cross-border insolvency and group insolvency. The law is not really being set through the proposed bill. So in that sense, it will take some effort before we have, say, particularly cross-border insolvency framework in place, because that will also entail discussions between countries, between governments to create a reciprocal regime, because typically cross-border regime is, created as an enabling framework on a reciprocal basis. Group insolvency, again, we have had experiences like ILFS, which has taken a fair amount of time to resolve. So in that sense, both the aspects need to be addressed very clearly. I mean, the first round of distress that we have seen, say, from 2015 onwards, a lot of that has got resolved. But now is the time really to look at second generation of insolvency reforms. And I think as part of that, these two are very critical areas, not just ILFS, but if one were to look at Videocon, GenSolve, various other cases where you may have businesses spread across multiple companies, and in distress you take a corporate debtor specific approach that can be, say, counterproductive, value degenerating. So in that sense, very, very important to have a framework which is functional and not left to courts to decide.
One very quick. Right, that's an important point. My final question to you would be, how important is it to increase the staffing, increase the infrastructure under the IBC framework if we want these new amendments to succeed, Saurabh?
No, I mean, infrastructure is very, very important. And I would also say that, if you look at, say, infrastructure, while there has been a lot of delays, but a lot of it is also because of the gaps which get created in our law. And sometimes at the level of committee of creditors, the tendency to get adjudication from courts. As long as that tendency remains, you will not see merely amendments leading to minimization of disputes or delays in the process. So it also requires some sort of a attitudinal change, and I think support from regulatory side, that if there is decision making which is done by committee of creditors, accept that and move on. Particularly if you see examples like BPSL reopening the whole case, that in a way shakes the confidence of the entire system. So those aberrations, if they are not there, and you create further improved infrastructure, and with these changes, I think things can get better. But I mean, to the larger question, of course, a lot of it will remain to be seen how we implement and whether all the problems get addressed through this changes or not.
All right, Kumar Saurabh Singh and Mr. Garg, thank you very much for joining us on the program. We're taking a short break, but don't go anywhere. The news continues on the other side.